Rob, what do you think about early retirement?
Early retirement? Are you trying to get rid of me?
No. I'm Archie Hoxton,
And I'm Rob Hoxton.
and this is Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. Welcome back to Last Paycheck. We're your hosts, certified financial planners Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton. And today, we're talking about early retirement, or maybe retiring earlier than you planned. This is a big topic, right? There's a lot of pitfalls that we're going to talk about. These are the things that you really need to think about if you're in this boat, whether you're retiring, you want to retire early, or maybe you're kind of being forced to retire early. We're going to talk about some things to watch out for.
Is there some sort of an underlying message here? Are you telling me that you're going to retire me early? Is that what you're saying, Archie?
No undertones,
Okay.
just honest conversation about
Just want to
early
make sure,
retirement.
because I'm not ready.
Yeah, you work as long as you want. But that's interesting because a lot of people, I kind of hear two camps when I talk to someone about retirement. It's either I want to retire as soon as humanly possible, or I'm never going to retire. I'm going to work until I'm 80. And both of those ideas, you usually get someone who's really locked into one of them. And so there are some things to think about. I mean, there's some data that we read about in a study recently that shows that maybe those ideas aren't exactly reflective of what really happens in life.
Yeah, in fact, here are the numbers. This is from the 2021 Retirement Confidence Survey, which was done by Greenwald and Associates and the Employee Benefit Research Institute. What they found is that Americans plan to work longer than they actually do. In fact, 64% of Americans said that they plan to work at least to age 65 and longer. 64%, that's a big percent.
Yeah.
And we don't know why they think that they plan to work. Maybe it's because they don't feel like they've saved enough, or maybe they want to maximize Social Security. We don't have a way of knowing why they say that. In actuality, only 28% of Americans actually work to 65 or past. That means that 72% of Americans retire before they reach 65.
Yeah.
Which is really astounding in my view.
Yeah, I mean, most people, when you think of retirement age, it's 65. I think there are a lot of reasons why people have sort of, latched onto that number, but life happens. There's a lot of reasons why someone might retire before 65.
Now, this is different than FIRE. I keep hearing people in your generation that keep talking about FIRE, and sometimes I hear them say FIRE, which is like, that means something is really good, right? It is fire, but then sometimes it's FIRE. And what does that stand for?
So FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. We're going to do another episode on that, and some of the things to consider if that's what you're looking for and what you want to plan for. This is more slightly early retirement, and it's meant for a mix of people. The people who are like, you know what, I think I'm ready. I'm not totally sure. What am I missing? And then there's the people who are like, hey, you know what, I just was kind of forced into retirement. Or maybe, you're considering not wanting to go until 65 and trying to find a way to retire sooner.
Or something happens. I mean, I think a lot of these people retire earlier than they anticipated because life happened.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they got sick or hurt.
Laid off.
I mean, you hear about it all the time. People in the later years of their career, in their late 50s, early 60s, where big employers may think, well, we could replace you with a younger worker, pay them less, the benefit costs are lower, and suddenly those people are let go. And it's really difficult, frankly, very difficult to find a job again that pays just as much.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in your late 50s or early 60s, you're really in a vulnerable position. In fact, I think the Department of Labor classifies anyone over age 55 is a protected class, making it harder to fire them, I think, for financial reasons. But anyway, I digress.
For good reason. I mean, that's really a difficult situation to find yourself in. So you might start asking, well, I mean, maybe I should just retire, call it a day, and ride off into the sunset. So maybe, but there are things to really think about here. And the first one that when I think about someone who's looking at retiring earlier, and this is really relevant if you're below the age 59 and a half, right? This is sort of a tax thing. And it comes down to, right, when you turn 59 and a half, something really important happens. If you're in a retirement plan at work, or you have a traditional IRA, and you want to start taking a withdrawal from those accounts before you hit age 59 and a half, not only do you pay your taxes on it, but you pay a 10% penalty. And so
now there are some exceptions to that.
Right.
So in some 401ks, if you retire early, you can actually access those funds without penalty at 55. Mm-hmm. If you are retiring before that, or that's not an option for you, you can actually tap into retirement accounts through something called a 72T distribution,
right,
which are substantially equal payments over a period not less than 5 years. There are 3 ways you can calculate that. You need to talk to your tax advisor or your financial planner to get that. But if you need to tap into your retirement accounts, whether they be IRAs, 401ks, whatever, and you haven't yet reached that age where you can do it without penalty, there are some options. You just need to make sure you do it very carefully. And once you do it, don't change your mind.
Right, because you lock that in. The other thing is look at your various investments and the different kinds of accounts. Do you have a diverse set of tax buckets? And if you've got time and you're thinking about doing this maybe 5-10 years from now for early retirement, start thinking about that, right? 72T is a good tool in your toolkit, but it is fairly limiting, right? You don't have the flexibility that a taxable investment account provides, where you don't have penalties, right? You just deal with the normal interest, dividends, capital gains taxes. So start thinking about your tax buckets. You've got pre-tax, you've got after-tax, like Roth IRA, you've got just a taxable account.
You could have triple tax-free HSAs, health savings accounts.
Right.
Those are our favorite kind of accounts for sure.
Yeah, and that's one, again, that we've done an episode on that should be, I think we're releasing that really soon, that check out, because it gives you yet another layer of flexibility, which particularly in the healthcare world, and that kind of leads into the next really important consideration, which is, what are you going to do about healthcare? That can be one of the most significant costs in retirement. And it's also one of, if not the most common reason for declaring bankruptcy in the United States, right? Medical debt is, if you go to the hospital and have a procedure and you see the bill, if you have insurance, your what you pay is much smaller. But if you look at the whole itemized bill, it's unreal. So imagine walking into letting your income go away and surviving on your investments, and then you get a gigantic medical bill. You can't have that happen. It's just too much risk. So
if you do retire early, and you're not yet eligible for Medicare, then you're going to be looking for insurance. Maybe you can get it through a continuation of benefits program called COBRA, which is good for, I think, only 18 months after you leave an employer. Mm-hmm. And the premium is 102% of what the employer cost is. So it can be a very large premium. If you go and you buy private insurance through the marketplace, the premium that you pay may be impacted by what your historical income was. So now, even though you have no income now, that premium could be impacted by the fact that you had perhaps a higher income when you were still working. So that's an area where there's a lot of planning that needs to happen, for sure.
Yeah. And you may have had healthcare, if you had it through your employer, you may have had a really, really great plan because part of your benefit, part of your compensation package was that your employer was covering the cost of a really nice healthcare plan. It can be a rude awakening when you go and you want to get a similar level of coverage out in the marketplace. It can be pretty insanely expensive. So that's something to be thinking about, right? How are you gonna maintain your coverage over time? Because it may be that you've got, you're 63 or 64 and Cobra will get you the Medicare, but it may be that you're 55 and you could have potentially 10 years of finding other health insurance. So that's an important consideration.
Archie, I'd like to just also talk a little bit about the emotional piece of this, right? So much, we're not therapists. Of course, we wouldn't ever purport to be therapists or to provide therapy, but there's an emotional connection between money and your future and the way you feel. If you find yourself retiring early, that's a huge event. I have a really close, longtime friend who found himself pushing 60 and being downsized. And the first day that he didn't go to the office, even though he had a package that gave him time to try to find a new job, a financial package, he was, his wife went off to work and he was just standing there looking at the puppy dog going, what do I do next? There is a huge emotional hurdle that you have to clear, and it's not necessarily easy to do. So that's something that we should touch on for early retirement.
Yeah.
For regular retirement.
For any retirement. I mean, if you've been working for 30, 40 years, maybe longer, you're used to having something to do 5 days out of the week or more.
Yeah.
You're used to having people at work that you get your social interaction with. If all of a sudden you're sitting at home and you've just got the dog, I mean, that can get
right,
kind of lonely. And
it's right. And another hand in hand with the emotional piece is, how do you handle the change in your budget that needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, now you've got more time on your hands and less money. That's not a really great combination.
Right. It's easy to start spending actually potentially more than you were pre-retirement. In fact, a lot of people find that in our experience, you've got all this time, now all of a sudden all the things that you've put off, you want to start doing them and they cost money. You may spend more. So that's another really important thing, is how much control do you really have over your spending? Everybody has expenses that come up out of the blue that you can't really anticipate. But just, your regular month to month spending, how much control do you have? Do you have a good budget in place, right? Do you have the ability to scale your lifestyle up and down, depending on the year and what's going on?
I love thinking about having a scalable lifestyle. When you have tough years, if you have fairly low fixed expenses, you can scale back on the incidental expenses,
right,
the vacations or whatever, or eating out. You can scale back so you can get through a tough time, and having control of that as a lever. Of course, we like to talk about levers, the things that you have control over as an economic citizen. Your ability to feel a sense of control can go a long way in making you happy.
Absolutely. Because
yeah. How about, so what are some of the other really important things, like, say, Social Security? So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So Social Security is a big decision because depending on when you take it, it's going to impact your benefit. So if you kind of have your full retirement age, that's where you get your full benefit you're entitled to. If you take it earlier, the benefit is smaller. If you take it later, you actually can grow the benefit. You can take it as early as 62 or as late as 70. So that's one of the most common questions that every financial planner gets, is when should I take it? And then the answer, as always, is it depends. But if you're retiring early, there's going to be a really big temptation to just say, best option, I'm going to take it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
If you retire at 60, you might be thinking, I can't wait until 62 to get that benefit. But there are trade-offs with that.
Yeah, I was looking at a client's Social Security statement today. They're coming in later today to do an update of their financial plan. Social Security benefits got a really big bump this year, I guess. And there's a decent sized bump, 3.2% in the benefit coming in January. And I was just looking at it because the report, if you've seen it, and you should get these reports, you can go to the Social Security website and get it, showed this guy's benefit nearly doubling between claiming at 62 and claiming at 70.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're healthy and you can wait, you'd be looking at double the Social Security income benefit.
Right. Well, and the other factor is, now this is something no one knows, but depending on how long you'll live after claiming Social Security, the total cumulative benefit you receive is going to change. So at some point, you may take it at 62. If you live until 90, right, the cumulative benefit of taking the higher amount at 70, right, it exceeds the cumulative benefit if you take it at 62, right, because your payment's so much smaller. That big payment starts to catch up over time.
I mean, your Social Security benefit may be your largest asset.
Mm-hmm.
The present value of that benefit could be $1 million.
Easily.
It's huge. So it's get some advice on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's somewhere around 8% per year that you delay now that's sort of a rough estimate, but 8% a year is a really strong return that you can't get consistently other places. So that's another consideration. So we hope this was helpful to you. If you're thinking about early retirement, I'm sure we'll be talking plenty more about important topics for retirement planning. So tune back in. Thanks for listening this time, though. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment.
Yeah, put a question in there if you would like for us to answer it. We'd be happy to.
Yeah, and maybe we'll make an episode out of it. Share with your family and friends too, and we'll see you next time. You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.